Let's see here. I'll be presenting this to both the select board and the finance committee. This is the initial submission of the fiscal year 2026 operating capital budgets. Just to highlight a couple of things. All right. I'm going to jump right in. Pleased to submit this proposal for our operating capital budget to the town of Stockbridge for your review and consideration. Focused on maintaining services and strategic investment, especially in public safety, specifically our shared fire and emergency medical services with the town of West Stockbridge. This is the initial draft budget, including recommendations to enhance those services, many of which have been incorporated, while there's been adjusted or not adopted, depending on what they came. I know Patrick disagrees with the way I have this set up, but so I want people to please note that you'll see on the budget sheet that the budget increased by $1 million, an 8.6% increase from fiscal year 25. However, this number is very much misleading. This is because the five-town building department, there's been a request from Great Barrington for Stockbridge to take over the five-town building department. So what that means is the employees of the five-town building department would be Stockbridge employees. What we would do is we're budgeting the entire amount of the department, which is $511,000. The other towns are going to pay us into it. The cost to us is only $84,000. In addition to that.
Why are they doing that?
Why are they doing that?
I'm happy to answer.
They have asked with their levy concerns and other issues that are happening in Great Barrington, they have asked us to take it on.
That's right. Because we have 2.5 million in levy capacity.
Yes.
So in other words, it's just a better
fit.
Just for budgetary.
For their.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing them a solid.
Yes. And like I said, in the end, we'd either have 84 in that line and not the money in revenues coming in, or 511 on that line. And the net is 84,000, regardless of which way you do it. So when you take in that, plus we're going to get 103,000 from West Stockbridge toward our shared first steps in our shared fire and ambulance and other local receipts, we're looking at about 587,000 in additional revenues. So when you factor in those revenues, the actual budget is going up 3.85%.
Well, that's before we get started today.
Initial proposal.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
know you have some others. We want to make sure that we're maintaining high quality public service for our residents, business owners, and visitors. This also brings in some significant challenges, which were the 16% increase to health insurance and a 6.6% increase to the school assessment. Let's see here. So when you look at the overall budget, sorry, there we go. Almost like I have a little delay right now. So for the town's operating budget, it's $9,251,127. So that's an increase of 805 or 9.54%. But when you bring in that 587,000 of additional revenue we're going to receive from the other towns, then the impact is our budget's going up 218,000 or 2.59% for the town.
Fine. It's up to Jamie.
Like,
Had a question.
school assessment is going,
Can we hold off a second? I met the new building inspector, Matt Comer, great
Yep.
guy, very young. I'm not sure how experienced he is, but will we have to add more staff to
No.
handle? He's gonna handle 5 towns?
We already did it.
No, that's-
Prior year's budget.
we have an inspector. Adam is our inspector for the town.
Comer.
No, Matt is the building commissioner for all 5 towns. Adam is the building inspector for Stockbridge and West Stockbridge. Ryan is the building inspector for Lee and Lennox. And then there's another individual in Great Barrington. So we have 3 inspectors for the 5 towns and then 1 commissioner. It's been that way. That's been our staff now for since Ned
Most of the
retired.
building inspectors, I've dealt with Mr. May down in Great Barrington stuff,
All right,
the full permits,
yeah.
and it just seemed like if Stockbridge is gonna handle it, we're understaffed.
It's the same stuff. There's literally,
Same setup that's current.
it's a budget
Yeah,
gimmick.
it's just a budget move.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
No, it's
I
fine.
don't know, I had to ask a question.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah. The school assessment is 4,122,000. That's an increase of 255,900 or 6.6%.
Michael, in the schools,
Yep.
I've heard competing rumors as to whether they added some of the staff positions back in based on public pushback. Did they?
They have not informed me of any changes to the budget. So this is as the most recent information I have received from the school.
Okay.
So this was their initial budget numbers. If they've added back staff,
And Michael,
it may change. Property tax is going to 9,987,781. That's an increase of 396,130 or 4%. Local receipts is 3,150,000. That's that increase of 587,000. We have been tightening our local receipts over the last couple of years. So it's reducing the generation of free cash. We'll talk a little bit about that, even though we have 2.5 million in free cash, 1.7 came from the rest of the river fund.
all right.
State aid is, right now, the current projection is 226,000. That's an increase of 12 or 6.1%. And we have free cash in a total of 2.505476. And then we have our spreadsheets. So depending on how you guys would like to go through this, I think we should start with the operating budget and we can either go right into questions or capital or
Revenue.
which one you want to go right?
I mean, it's up to Jamie, but
Yep. Chair, what would you like to start with?
Had a suggestion, he can wait.
So revenue tab?
yeah.
Or right revenue tab?
All right, well, the first one, you're not gonna, the first one is potentially works against us, but
What page are you on?
it's the one that says Town of Stockbridge FY. I don't think they're numbered. It's under the, it's the second to last sheet before it says capital draft and the backside of it.
Yes, I'm gonna
First
work,
line says, Town of Stockbridge FY 25 estimated revenue.
Got it.
Yeah. By the way, isn't this FY 26?
yes.
All right, so there's that.
Okay, we're done with this page, you're correct, 25 and 26.
Okay, so the first thing is that, our actuals are running about $56,000 behind the first two quarters of the last fiscal year, or the current fiscal year are. So I know that you want to keep those at around 90%. And I'm a little bit concerned that it's more like 98% based on where the numbers are running. And I'm okay with that, as you know, but I just wanted to point out that according to Erica, that we're running actually below fiscal year, our actuals for fiscal year 25 are below fiscal year 24 with the closing of Wheatley. So, for the first two quarters where the actual receipts are in,
Right.
it's about 56,000 below where we were the prior fiscal year.
I have actually the FY 25 numbers in there.
I do, I know you do, but I had her compare the two for 24, the first two for 24 to the first two for 25, and they're not good.
They're not good.
They're down by 56 grand.
All right.
And those are like the summer months. Those are like, it's the eight,
Right.
so
Yeah, and we had talked about that last year, that.
I know.
Impact,
Yeah.
that's still what
All
we
right.
leave.
Now, if you want to push that up to 95%, I'm okay with leaving it alone, but that may be one you want to kind of trim back a little.
All right.
All right, that's the bad news. I would like to, a request of the chair that we put sometime in the next couple of meetings, put a discussion of pilot on the board's agenda. With pilot revenues of 10,000, that is about $70,000 below the historical high from about 7 or 8 years ago. And I think that now that the pandemic is over, we need to kind of figure out a pilot strategy.
Don't have a line for that, do we?
Yeah, we do. It's
Where?
payment in lieu of taxes. It's like the seventh line down.
Right, right.
Cannabis.
We don't do cannabis. Yeah.
I'm just saying it's under cannabis.
No, it's super low.
No, it's a pilot is, it's under penalties and interest on taxes.
It's too low. It's right here.
Yeah.
Payments, right.
Yeah.
Right there.
Are we all on the same, is this the same page that you're looking at, Michael, as I'm on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This is just colored, ours isn't.
Yeah, maybe just highlight the rows that we're on. On the question of,
What is that? Charges at the hospital.
what does rentals refer to? This is, where it's like down where you're putting it
Yeah, what is,
at 110.
So the rentals are, this includes the, cell towers,
Okay,
rentals in this building.
okay. So it went from 150 to 122 to 110. Where do we think that, do we know where the,
why does it jump?
well, I'm just saying that the actuals were 150 and 122 and we budgeted them at 110. But the actual so far are only 74. Do we know what's going on with this?
Well, remember, a lot of collections of rentals at this point, a lot of these we just get quarterly and we only had 2 payments in on some of
Okay,
these.
all right. So, but I mean, so then in that case, the question is, we saw like from 23 to 24, it dropped 28,000. But we're still only budgeting 40,000 less than the historical high of fiscal year 23.
I'm trying to remember exactly. We did have a rental that, we had a couple rooms drop, in this building.
But I want to pull 200 grand out of this. So to get there, I'm mad. What I'm basically asking is, can we bump that up to 120?
As always, I'm conservative, so I took the 3-year average and
But is it that? The actuals were,
then I calculated you can see where it is right here, 122, and it's at 10% less so than the average. So, I'm trying to just,
yeah, but that can't be true because the fiscal 23 average was fiscal 23 was 150.
and I just, I can tell you what so I'm taking the last 3 actuals and dividing by 3. I have the formula right up there.
And then taking out 10%?
Yes.
How about 115?
Where are you gonna get it?
Yeah.
Well, it's less than what we've actually taken in. The point isn't, we're not making the numbers up. We have actuals that have shown, that have run higher. So how much do we want to kind of, plan for a downturn? That's my point,
So
2 years ago, they were 150 and now we're budgeting at 110. Not sure that was an aberration or is it?
So one of the things that, as me and you have discussed, is I usually take the 3-year average of what we've taken in. I look at, is there any known changes? And then I book it at 90%. What you never want to do is never be in a situation where our local receipts don't come in to where we've said they're going to come in, because then we end up with in a negative situation.
And in
on our
5
balance
years,
sheet.
in 5 years of both of us on this job, that it's never come close to happening. But yes, I
I
get it.
will point out that we talked about this in the last, since I started here in the first couple of years, free cash was definitely being generated much more by
I know.
underrepresenting revenues, and we've tightened that up.
We got a lot to get through. So do you want to leave it at 110 or can you go up to 115?
I really would like
All
to
right.
stick to the
That's fine.
90%. I think it's a safe number.
What about, on the, let's see. I would like to bring up the question of the FY 25 actuals on the building inspector licenses and permits. And I know why that is. It's
All right.
because of, I know why it is.
All right.
It's because the Marians and the Waldorf School have paid ginormous fees for the big giant building projects we have. But that has created, just for the first 7 months of the fiscal year, $100,000, we know that's going to go to free cash. We absolutely know that money will go to free cash next year. And I think that gives us some flexibility as we look at some of the other proposals throughout the night around computers and other spending on technology that gives us a little bit of padding because of that one-time increase in those fees way beyond what we would normally expect.
So what you're missing here is that this is going to be the free cash calculation for
I get it.
following
I'm
year.
just saying that I'm gonna be looking to draw on some of our current free cash. Because
Oh.
I'm gonna anticipate that it's gonna be at least 125,000 above,
Yes,
because of those extraordinary projects that are going on.
yes, we're going to end up with a solid year because of two projects that have bumped
Right,
those up
right.
substantially.
So I'm just putting a little tickler. I put a chit down that says we got about 100 grand to play with there on free cash.
We don't have to play with the money. It is not monopoly.
I'm trying to use the common tongue here. I'm happy to talk in accountant speak if you prefer.
That was what, Marina Fowler's project. What was the other project?
Waldorf.
Waldorf's permits alone have been like over $40,000, I mean, it just, because it's all based on square footage and the kind of work you're doing and.
Marion Fathers was a $25 million project.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
brought
But they're
in
not done yet.
substantial. Right, but they've already
They paid the fees.
They've already paid the
Oh, they
fees for
did.
the permits and rest.
Oh, I thought it came incremental.
No, those were paid upfront. So-
Okay.
Okay. And then on the, and then I guess the other question I have is with your 10% rule, I'm looking at actual investment income for 23, 24, and 25. And there's no way that the 3-year average minus 10% is 100 grand.
I actually
Where?
don't tend to use the 3-year average on investment. Me and Eric get together. We look at what reserves we have and where the money is coming in and where we expect that one to come in somewhere at. This is a lot of times as you know, a guessing game
I get it.
and that on investment income.
I'm just saying maybe a little bit conservative. When we took in 300,000 one year, we took 100,000 another year, and we took in 180 just to date in the first 7 months of this year.
But I would also point out, we took in 104 the year before. The 330, there was something particular that year that we had received.
Was that
The
like,
Biden economy, what can we say?
So I actually look at, the 303 was an anomaly and I don't like to look at outliers. Same thing when you do any type of
investment, right, this one.
analyzation, you look at
And it
what
bumps
was a
around.
one-time spike.
All right, but I'm just saying that the lowest of the 3 years was 104 and we put it in 100. And the way we get this tax rate down is we start to look at like whether even 10 or 20 grand makes a big difference if we go across 10 or 20 line items. And I'm just suggesting that 100 may be a little bit low because otherwise it just falls to free cash the next year, as we know, which is fine. But this is what actually reduces the tax rate.
Find out I don't remember offhand. I'm trying to remember, but I can't remember
Feel free to share with me the
why
count.
the 303 happened.
So where
Because
does
there was a
this money- where does
reason
this
behind
come
it.
Would
from?
that have been,
This is under the investment income line item.
Oh, what is that?
It's money that we receive for interest on our accounts.
Yeah, I mean, the town has at any given time around 10 million bucks in the
extra
bank.
interest during like ARPA monies or anything like that?
No, it's just interest on and returns on
Yeah.
those. So let me find out why we had, what was the 303
That's
that
a
would have
big
been
jump. I
that
can't
year?
recall what would
Yeah.
be.
My goal would be to get that up to maybe 125 if we
Wants
can.
to come to its
Yeah,
fruition, to its.
I know Rich had a question.
I
Rich,
just had a quick question. So some of these we don't, so what we're seeing here are our forecast and then our actions.
Yes,
Right? And some of these things we can't anticipate because it's variable based on whatever,
right,
like permits or whatever.
right.
But when we look at something like rentals, right?
Mhm.
We have a fairly solid idea
Yes.
of what our anticipated rentals are gonna be for
Right.
the remainder of the year, correct?
You do, but then we get things like somebody, leaving here or
Well, I mean,
Others,
yeah,
I
we can
think.
change that, but I guess my question is that how come we don't have like a column for the current year that's like a pro forma?
We do.
So we do, we're,
It's FY 25 adopted is the pro forma. And then the actuals through February, it's the third column from the right.
1,000 that we've taken in as the
can you
actual.
just be fair quickly, just scroll up again so I can see what columns we're
I don't
talking
know.
about here?
What's
So
that?
FY 25 adopted is what?
I don't know, that's why.
Adopted was the ones that
I
we
don't know if we-
approved last year
Correct, and then the actuals are the actuals.
as of
As of February
February
5th.
5th, as of 2/5.
Right, and where's the pro forma?
The pro forma is Michael's.
Oh, I didn't do, over on the side are my
I'm not talking.
calculations than others. I'm sorry, all right, I will do up I know what you're saying. On that one, rentals, right? I could,
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there might be some, most of these probably are not applicable because they're kind of dependent upon a number of things.
yeah,
May or may not happen, but we have agreements in place that we know that we should anticipate revenues.
yes.
And we should at least be able to have it there to at least provide some
Yep.
protection.
You're talking about actual rent on the building here. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the
Right.
rentals,
So, I
the
mean-
solar rental,
Yeah.
right, we
Right.
can, I can get that.
Is that
That,
also including the term rental fee?
No,
No.
that's the rules up top.
That 303, that wasn't ARPA money going to the account, was it?
Yeah. No, that's in the occupancy tax.
Just odd that it jumped up to that for,
And what is, fines and forfeits?
That's exactly what it says. When we bring in fines and forfeitures,
Oh,
we do sometimes end up fining people for various things, yeah.
huh.
Okay. So now let's go back up to the top and I think that it'd be great if we go to the expense page now, the top level expense page. Obviously you mentioned that the insurance rates are up 16%. I would like to understand, Michael had explained to me privately that of that increase, that over the last 4 years, their reserves went from 23 million to 12 million. This is on the Berkshire County Health Group that provides us with our insurance. And that of this 16% increase, 4% of that increase is to rebuild those reserves.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, I would like a presentation from them, and I would encourage us to work with other towns to get that presentation to understand whether that full 4% is necessary in 1 year. Because if they only went through, I mean, I get that they were at 23 million in reserves. They're down to 12 million now. It doesn't seem likely that they're going to burn through all their reserves next year. And with the extraordinary increase in prescription costs this year, if the baseline increase is 12%, I'm not sure that the extra 4% is merited this year, maybe just 1 or 2 instead of 4. That makes a big difference both in the school budget and in the town's budget. And I think that we should ask them to come in and present to whatever the us that you could put together is. I realize we don't have a lot of juice with them because we're one of the
Well, they've
small
already
towns.
voted, so it's already done.
Well, good. I still want them to justify it. They're not elected. And they're using our taxpayer money to build up what is their bank account. And I don't love that.
All right, so, I will get the debt. So like we talked about, so for 2 years in a row, the Berkshire Health Group went 0%, 0%. Then they raised the rate by 8%, but did a premium holiday of 1 month, which actually meant that that's an 8.3% reduction. So they actually basically did 3 years of 0 increases to the income they saw coming in. Their reserves have dropped substantially to where their companies that
understand all
they
that.
bring in and look at it says you're now getting dangerous because just cancer claims and others, I know 12 million sounds like a lot of money.
I'm not saying it is.
During
What I'm
30,
saying, Michael, is that by doing 0 3 years in a row, they didn't do any smoothing. And 8 people in that school district are losing their jobs because this is jumping 16% this year. And if they had put it up 2 or 3% a year like any municipal organization does, then we would be avoiding a situation where you're actually seeing the staff cuts at our school because of these extraordinary spikes. So I would like to know the 4% that they're going to put toward their reserves, how much they're anticipating the reserves will grow in the next 12 months. Because if it's $5 or $10 million, that seems to me maybe excessive compared to 2 or 3 million every year for the next 2 or 3 years.
I don't understand the loss of employees with the increase of insurance.
well, because 16% was a really high number.
School district.
And one of the things, and it was brought, there was an article in the paper about it. Dave Fiero, the accountant in Williamstown, asked that very question because he said, if the last couple of years they had gone up 2 or 3%, then we wouldn't have had this big 16% jump in 1 year. But because they went 0, 0, 8, but gave a premium holiday, which reduced it by 8, they brought in no extra income, which caused their reserves to drop low enough that their actuarials are going, you're now in danger. A couple big claims could actually flip this upside down and cause a really bad situation. So
Right,
it's all
maybe
documented.
there's nothing we can do about it, obviously, but I just want to understand what the plan is to rebuild the reserves and how many years they want to do it. If 4% gets them back to 23 million in 1 year, maybe that's just a little.
I do know so Maya, which is a much larger insurer across the state, came in at 14 plus whatever your local one is. So I know Lee ended up with a 16.4. So you're seeing that this is very much across the board happening.
Right.
One of the things is you don't go and say, we're going to build these reserves over 3 or 4 years, because if you get hit hard enough, you can end up with your health insurance account flipped upside down. And that is where bills can't be paid. And that's not,
I get it.
Or is it just our population is aging?
no, this is the employees.
I know, but
So-
the employees are aging and they need more help and,
No, it's just about,
Prescription.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can ask them about having, it's from the school department, I think it's Sharon, that's
I know.
our representative on it. And there's only so many that are voting members that are on it, but yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to read my. So in general, I'm looking at, a lot of questions I have are when the change is at 0%. And the actuals versus budgeted are a little different. So I'll give you a couple examples. Actually, before we get there, Conservation Commission, the 36,000, is that coming out of general operating funds or does that come out of the fees that conservation brings in?
That's the general operating fund.
And what happens to the fees that come in for conservation?
I believe they go into a conservation account.
Okay, and how much is in that account?
I will get that for you.
All right, so I would like to see if possible, if that account has, I think that, we should build up a reserve in there for extraordinary conservation items, but there's no reason not to offset some of the operating expense with what those fees are. And even if it's 5 or 10 grand.
All right.
I mean, because I've never seen any of that money spent. I think we spent some on the snail guy 4 or 5 years ago, and that was the only thing I can recall in all my time on the Concom and on the select board that we ever spent any of that money. And I just feel like,
What about Gould Meadows? Did they use it for Gould Meadows?
No, but they can spend it on various projects, fees. There's a chapter of law that allows the
Yeah.
conservation to set money aside for when they get some type of big project, they want to do a bigger review, bring in experts or whatever. This is the difference between reoccurring actual things and then money set aside for extraordinary events. I will find out the dollar amount. I don't believe it's huge. I thought it was near 20, but
I think that there's well over $30,000 in there, as I recall. And I think it grows every year is my point, because there's a certain, I mean, if you look at the revenue side, there is, I mean, I don't think it's in here anywhere, but there is revenue that comes into Concom.
right, because that revenue doesn't go to the general funds. That
Yeah, right.
fund goes
Right.
into another account.
Right. But the building fund, the building fund fees go in, the license fees go in, everything else goes in. And I just feel like,
Conservation was always allowed to pull this out, so when they get extraordinary events that they want to bring in expertise to assist with, that's what that account is set aside to protect against.
yeah, okay.
So they basically have a fund available for those extra, which could come out of nowhere. I know 20 or 30,000 sounds like a lot, but if you're bringing in experts, engineers or others, that's not going to be a lot of money. So
I think that if they're bringing in, I think that the numbers I recall, I could be wrong, is $10,000 to $15,000 a year in FEMA revenue, that some percentage, even if it's small, 25% of it, 33% of it going toward offsetting what the costs are for the conservation agent and the conservation light on it is not unreasonable for the taxpayers. I'm not saying all of it. I'm
well,
just saying,
I think your number, I will check because I think your numbers are, because if we're taking in 10 to 15,000, we haven't spent anything, there should be hundreds of thousands and there isn't. I think it's more
Because
like
they have to pay
1,000,
for
1,500. I don't think
well,
it's.
it's,
they have
what's
to pay
the
for the
fee
ads.
when you come into Concom with there's a fee every time someone brings in something.
Some of those fees are, not all of them go into that account. So I will get you that total. That's not a problem.
And what about planning board? Similar question.
They don't get, no, we don't have an account where the money's set aside.
Okay. No, and I'm not complaining about this, I'm just bringing it up. What's the extra 4,000 for SBSC this year?
That is for the,
Water,
The what?
water testing.
the annual water testing.
It just got more expensive?
Yes.
Okay. All right, how about, police department salaries are up 6.3%.
Didn't we get a new officer? Aren't we fully officered?
So 6.3, we're fully officered, the 6.3, because we had a couple that also had changed in their scales for longevity. So it was a 4%, then whatever on top of it for longevity changes.
On the question on the tree warden expenses, do you feel like there's enough in there based on the advice that we got from Race Mountain, wherever they are now on the Elm Street work that we did on Main Street?
So I just got that report from Hugh today. And I think that what we did is we bumped one account up for long-term maintenance to better take care of Main Street. But we do think that we're probably gonna add that as a one-time fee in.
We're going to do it from free cash.
Yes.
Okay. And you know what the total was?
I think it was 37,000.
Okay.
I have the reports. Like I said, I met with them this morning on it.
All right. And then we dealt with the vocational thing. Let's see. Fire hydrant rental, that's going to Housatonic Waterworks.
Yep.
What?
And what's the deal there? I thought those were non-working hydrants. Is that how that?
There's two types of hydrants. The first hydrant is your fire hydrants that have enough. Your other hydrant are flushing hydrants. So flushing hydrants are, you open them every year in order to get what are called loose volatile organic compounds out of the system. And that's why you flush the hydrants. So
But isn't the flushing part of the system? Those people are ratepayers.
what's
What do you
that?
mean?
Those people are ratepayers down there. There's 24 Stockbridge residents where those hydrants are. Flushing those hydrants should be part of the service of providing water that people are paying for. I don't see why the town is paying for non-working fire hydrants. Unless the flushing type of hydrants seems like it's part of the system.
Well, whether a hydrant is flushing or just for flushing or for fire depends on Chuck knows this, depends on both the pressure and the volume that's available.
Are there any fire
Down
hydrants?
there, my understanding, those are not able to be used as fire hydrants.
Which brings me to the question of why we spend $2,500 to pay for rentals on a system that is only used for flushing ratepayers' water lines.
Because we're required to pay.
Isn't that a part
I
of the
believe it's in
deal?
the initial agreement with Hoosick Water. The rental fees typically are something that is paid if you have hydrants. And the reason why it's not in water, our water and sewers, because it's not connected to that. It's on the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
An annual bill for our hydrant rentals that are part of the system.
I think that there was a time when we thought those were fire hydrants, working fire hydrants, and we found out they
One or
aren't.
two working ones.
What?
There's a couple of working ones.
Oh, there are. Okay.
You tie into one and two.
So Vinny, you
Not a-
know which
It's
one.
not a lot of water, but it's,
So,
we did tie into one by the tracks there.
all right.
How's the veteran services line item apportioned between the towns? Does every town participate in that?
Yeah, the towns that are included pay, and we pay for the person that, we all,
When you say the towns that are included, what towns are those?
I would have to look it up, that are part of the Southern Berkshire. It's most of the towns in Southern Berkshire are part of the veterans.
It's pretty much.
You mean
like us
Tom?
now.
Yeah, Dalton is not in the Southern Berkshire,
No,
and I don't know if any towns around them buy into their, so, but I know it's most of the Southern Berkshires, we all chip in for the veterans agent. And then the other line are for things that pop up. And, this could be anything from hearing aids for veterans to assistance to various program. And the person that does the forms upon application would submit to us for reimbursement or money needed for it.
Okay. And so that's just budgeted, but we don't actually write that out? We write them a check for $55,000.
No, we do not. No, we get there's forms that we get that show that there's payouts for this, that, and another.
So
And
is there like a budget versus actual on that? How much should we actually spend?
So,
Because it's been budgeted at 55,000 for 3 straight years.
and yeah, I think it was even before that, it was budgeted that way.
Right. And I'm not complaining about it. I just want to know, like, kind of, you know,
So the actual spending, for 24 was, 9,000, 11,000 was for the agent and 9,000 was in benefits, 9,780.
how about the year before? Do you have anything else?
I don't know, I have to fill that one in.
Maybe that seems like it might be a little high.
That one might be, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And I'm not looking to cut the actual benefits. I just want to make sure the budget's reflecting what we're actually spending.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think that when we talked about this concept of smoothing, I thought that, I think that we get a really good deal on our library. Most towns have municipal libraries now. We have a nonprofit. You know, we're paying something around, last year we paid something around 50%. I think that we should have a target of paying 50% on the library, and I think that would amount to 326. And I think that I would rather not have a situation where we get into, we're getting down to 45 or 40 again, because, you know, they're basically making up the difference in their endowment. And unlike a municipal function where if they had a water break, you know, if they had some kind of big giant expense in that building, their endowment is the only thing they have to fix it. And I would like us to have a target of 50%.
Not true. So because they are quasi-government, they could come and the finance committee could use reserves or we can use others. Last year, we ended up appropriating some money for their elevator to be repaired. So,
We did that with ARPA.
we did that with ARPA, but they do receive funding from us. They are in our budget. So there are some mechanisms for us.
Not in emergencies though, really.
Well, the same that we have, if there's an
What is it?
emergency, is we have a reserve set up for these type of events that could happen.
But it's
And,
considered a town and building, isn't it?
No.
It's a private business,
It
but it
is.
is supported by taxpayer. Libraries end up in this quasi, they also get state funding, so they get state money, they get town money, they get federal money, or not federal, but local, so.
Look, I think their budget's up around 5% and I would like us to, like,
So I know when it used to be 226 to 140 the year before because there were some concerns about their annual appeal. I know when I met with Wendy, she said that the appeal has bounced back. I know she's on, had mentioned that it had bounced back and they were anticipating extra income. So this is up to you guys. If you'd rather set a target.
I think the target should be 50% personally. But
I don't think Wendy would argue with it.
So that would be in the last column, is
Yeah.
what Patrick's saying.
So what that would do is take the 677 and divide it in half.
well, not the 677. I want to back out the 25,000 in emergency fund they put in. So it actually is 652. Yeah, I think that they put 25,000 in their budget as an emergency reserve. And I think that's good. We don't need to fund reserves, just like you just pointed out. So the net budget is 652.
So instead of them giving us estimates on what they think they're getting in for their revenues, you just want to give them 50%. I mean, that's really your decision.
I mean, I think that where you look at Great Barrington and Lennox, where it's 100% of municipal budget, I think it's a
Yeah.
good deal for Stockbridge.
I think.
50%.
Yeah.
You know, and that way, per your point on smoothing, this is something you taught me. We want to kind of do a couple percent a year rather than a situation where they have to come and, like last year, ask us for 75,000. This way, it's just kind of expenses go up a little bit every year. It smooths it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd rather have a target of 50%.
I know Patrick says, so this is one thing, we're talking about this board.
We're listening.
Well, is this something you want me to build into the budget? Is this? Do we want to set a percentage of the town funding of the library?
So what control do we have over the spending?
So, we get an annual budget as they present here. Right, do you want to base it on the current year, the year before? 50, how, do you want it based on the projected? Do you want it based on the actual? What do you want to set this at?
We all know the library trustees. We're all friends with them. We respect them. I have every confidence that the library board of trustees is doing a solid.
Not about, that's
But
not the
that's
The
point.
question is, how do you want to set this formula? Do you want 50%
You look at next year's
on the
budget.
actuals from the year before? Do you want 50% based on their projected budget? What?
I think it should be 50% of the projected budget. That's the way all budgets work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't feel like I need to review I think it's basically, I
of their operating budget.
Yeah, Pat, and you want to back out their.
want to back out the reserve budget.
Just,
Right.
but 50% of the operating budget, not any capital projects, not any other investments.
Right, this is just their operating budget.
Okay, because we can get into,
Yeah.
they can come in and want to put an addition on it. We got,
No, and this is just a policy decision. You guys can change it every year. I'm just asking, how would you like to approach this year's budget?
Yeah.
And do you want to do 50% of their operating budget?
what is their operating budget this year?
652.
77, but you'd have to back out the 25,000 that they have in there.
So what would I bring it up to?
It brings it up by 26,000. And otherwise it's,
The top versus 300 will be 326.
yeah. And I'm happy to take that other 26 out of free cash if you guys would prefer. I think if,
Yeah, I'm not, if it's coming to the operating budget, I just assume that take it out of free cash.
right now, if it just comes out of the operating budget, then it would just,
No, I'm saying that put it onto the tax rate.
if we take it out of free cash, it would not have the tax rate.
I rarely use free cash for capital projects.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
I think using free cash for operating budget, it's just, I don't like doing that. I like to,
yeah. I know. I'm going back to my 100,000 kitty from the Waldorf School in the Marians. So there's some things I'm going to bring up some options to basically spend that little windfall because every 100,000 is about 1% of the tax rate. So it's a good way of looking at it. Where the actual tax bill is around 6,000, every 1% costs people $60 on average. So
The budget sheet that I'm looking at, where's the 25,000 for?
Wendy told me today when I
Oh,
called.
all right. I was gonna say, I'm looking at this going, it's not on.
Wendy, you can chime
in if you want. I mean, I don't know, or not. Or she might not be on anymore. I don't know. The next one and the next
We don't
one.
have I know you've expressed.
But
What's
we
the
don't
board's-
have to make a solid decision
No, but
tonight
would you
either.
like me to build that in? Would you like to?
okay, the finance committees.
I think it would be, I'm okay. I don't want to use free cash for it.
All right.
No, I always recommend reoccurring costs are.
Not an operating budget. I think that's a fake budget when you start using free cash for an
Yeah,
operating.
and we have bridges and things to fix. We have stuff to fix.
Free
So would
cash.
you like me to base it on 50%, leave it as is, as a board? Because then I'm gonna make some changes and I'm actually gonna stay tonight, finish this up and get it to the finance committee for our meeting next week. So this is the select board's budget. Yes, I put it together, but ultimately this is your guys' budget. how do you want this presented?
May
Uh,
may I chime in for a second? Is that okay?
There's Wendy.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to say a couple of things. One, of course, we're very grateful to the town always for the support and for this past year for the support for the broken elevator, which was over $20,000 and a big surprise, an unfortunate surprise for us. And at the same time, I did want to say that at 50% of the library's operating budget, the return on the investment for the town is pretty extraordinary. We've already heard from Michael and Patrick that most libraries get 100% of their operating budget from the municipality. So I think for the taxpayers, 50% of the budget is still an extraordinary deal for the level of services and the building and you know, the libraries, the way the library improves the quality of life in Stockbridge, I think that, you know, it's really still at 50% of the budget. It's an extraordinary bargain.
Yeah, like. So if you want a motion, I'll make a motion, we go with 50%, but if you don't want a motion, we can just give Michael.
You think?
So it'd be 326, 225.
I know.
That would be putting in.
326.
Yeah.
Versus 300, which is the line item now.
And we could probably get some money out of those other areas,
Yeah.
like conservation and some of those others that are over. So it'll come out as a wash.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good idea. So I'll second,
I would,
but not free cash.
Right.
no,
It's fine with me.
Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
If you want to make a motion, or I could just build it in if.
Patrick
made
I'll
one.
second the motion.
All right.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Skipping down to the bottom of that sheet, I will point out that, you know, that something that I'm sure is going to want to be discussed is that Michael's put in if you look at the box at the bottom, the 95,697 for MedX, that is being drawn, that would be drawn on the 4.5 million that we have in the OPEB account. My preference personally would be that only includes the Medicare and Medicaid portion, right? And it does not include the private insurance portion, which is another 45,000. My preference would be that we pull the whole 140 out. I think that some people on the finance committee may not want to pull anything out. Michael's put in 95. I can live with that, though my preference would be the 140. It's made extraordinary returns in the last year.
So he's talking about this number or this
Yes.
number?
The 95,697.
So we have a
Why is it
separate
put over
one.
here?
So I just set it over there to show you guys. So it's very clear that obviously one thing that our OPEB account can pay is medics and Medicaid. And it should cover any retirees, but then we have a couple of retirees that are on family plans,
Oh,
and how
Yeah.
whether we can pull that money from the OPEB, I still need to confirm that. But there's a
We need
potential for
some.
2 more that
Okay.
could be added on. The ones that we know for
need
certain,
more.
that number right there for certain can be withdrawn from the OPEB trust and used to pay down.
So you're talking go.
can be used.
So this is
95.
Michael has put in,
And then
you're
what-
pulling some money out of, sorry, what?
I just wanted, then OPEB would still be at, because right now
You want to go
it's
140,000.
at.
I want to basically pull out whatever we can,
Four
for
million,
like these taxpayers.
95,000.
Right. And if it even does 2% interest in a year, you're
Right.
talking it's
It's way better than that.
So,
right.
and with this, you would only use for that, for the MedX.
Right.
How much more? You're 95, you go into what?
There's a potential that there's 2 other family plans that could be added
How
possibly
much
to it.
about
They're 23,000 apiece, so that's additional 46,000 on top of.
plus
So, yeah.
46?
And that's going back to my back of the napkin, that's 1.5% of the taxes on everybody's bill.
Right.
You know, and these things add up, you know, I'm just saying. So I think that's,
To confirm that, and I will.
I get it.
I can explore that.
All right.
But definitely the 95.
The 95 is something you can, and probably with the interest that you receive on it, the account would.
Okay.
I know there'll be some people, it depends on how your belief on OPEB. I know as being Patrick, because Patrick has brought this up for the last couple of years, you know, companies like Ford, they have to have an OPEB account because if they cease to exist, their pensioners have to be taken care of.
Great.
This would mean a complete default of not only us, but all of the other communities before us that are in less financial
It
shape.
happened to General Motors.
What's that?
General Motors.
Yeah.
Went
Whole
bankrupt.
bunch of
Well,
people.
we're basically fully,
Pensions.
Yeah.
Our government paid the pensions for General Motors.
but we're well over 90% funded, close to 100% funded.
Doing, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
What he's talking about is reality.
Yeah, it's yeah, and that,
All right,
when they went out, they then forced every company to set up their OPEB accounts. And they've recommended for municipalities to protect against, but, such as our school department doesn't even have one, and we have a percentage share of that, which is much greater than anything we have. So that money just sits there right now. We can only use it for Stockbridge employees, period. So it won't even help with the other side. So, yeah.
So the options are that 95,000 to take it out of.
95 is something we know for sure we can do.
But if you don't,
the select board
Now we'll
and town
just-
meeting votes,
But if you
okay.
don't, it's gotta come out.
then we'd have to add it back into the budget.
Well, right, no, it's time
And,
to use it.
is that just for the year?
Yeah,
Okay,
those are the medics payments for
just
fiscal
one
year
year.
26. Yep.
Wow.
It'll be the same next year, a little higher.
Well, it'll be whatever the adjustments to Medicare and medics. We have a separate spreadsheet of that one I can't show you guys because it's got names and everything else, but.
No.
So Michael, well, first of all, do we have a feeling of whether the 95 versus the 140 from,
I'll go-
I haven't been able to explore that yet.
Okay.
I will get an answer
need
as
more
far as.
I
information.
didn't want to move on to, everyone had a chance
But
to.
I would, if we can do the 140, I'll do the 140.
All right.
Right?
Yeah, I would rather do.
If that takes care of
I'll
our
get that answer.
people.
But these are the things
Why,
that
why put
really,
that, why put that in
Yeah.
the tax rate when we got the
Yeah, that's
money
right.
sitting there?
that's right. And I would just point out that 4.5 million in there was mostly taxpayers who were here in the teens paid in. And I'm glad they paid in, but that if people hadn't paid in, that money would be in their account. And now I think that now that we're near 100%, it's reasonable for those taxpayers to now save because they paid in. This is a savings account that's really the taxpayer savings account. I think it's great that we funded it, but now it's maybe time to draw because people have gotten older and retired. Anyway, that's the shtick.
If we hadn't saved the money, we couldn't
That's right.
spend the money.
That's right.
So we were spending it, but you're spending it in tax dollars.
Okay. My next one is a little bit controversial. Michael, you pointed out that at $2,800 is our policy on insurance, right?
Where are you?
Insurance availability is a stipend over 2,800.
Patrick, where are you?
So this is,
Assessors and select board.
so right now, the town policy Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 14 is for health insurance for elected officials.
Where?
Elected officials, this is just the law, the elected officials are allowed to have health insurance if they're elected and receive even $1 of pay. But the Board of Selectmen can set parameters. In 2007, the Board of Selectmen said that you had to make more than $2,800 in order to qualify for health insurance from the town.
Right. Now, my point is this, we have two boards that are paid a stipend above $2,800. This board, and frankly, to full disclosure, all three of us around town health insurance are paying our health insurance for the great work that we do.
We pay for it out of, oh, I
we
see what you
fund-
mean.
yeah.
All right, and then the Board of Assessors, and right now, none of the Board of Assessors are on health insurance, but they qualify. Health insurance is really expensive. A family plan is like $23,000 and an individual plan is like $12,000. And I would like us to either to raise the amount of the minimum required or lower the stipend, because right now we have exposure around potential additional employees joining the health insurance, which is a giant cost to the town. So I would,
Nobody on the assessors are on
nobody is on, it's my understanding,
They
right?
don't want it?
There's none of them are on.
None of them are on it.
their own insurance, that's why.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right now,
Other jobs.
Stockbridge is the only
Right.
one that's.
So I'm happy to, I'm just saying, I don't have any problem with people getting a stipend, though I believe that the assessors used to more go out in the field and kind of do Michael Blaze's job. And now there's a little bit less of that. But, I do feel like, somebody gets elected right now, to that board. I frankly don't think that for a board that meets once a month, that compensation in the $25,000 to $30,000 a year range potentially, it seems excessive. So we could do it two ways. We could do nothing, three ways. Do nothing, raise the $2,800 cap to 5,000, let's say, or we could lower the assessors, which meets once a month and what did they get? 4,000, 3,500 each?
It's 3,000.
Yeah. And like I said, the assessors used to kind of do the assessing. Right now, we've gone to a more automated and professional system.
So what does an assessor get now?
The assessor chair gets 4,000.
And the
Assessors.
other,
3,500.
Yeah, 3,700
how many of them?
or 3,250.
How many?
Two of them.
It's 3 total.
That's 6,400.
So if you set it at,
So 10,400 for payroll.
Right. And it's basically 1 meeting a month, right? I mean, it's kind of, yeah.
So deduct $200 each from them?
Well, you have to go under 2,800 or change our policy.
if we're gonna change the policy, we should put that for the next meeting to
All
have
right.
a policy discussion on this.
I think we'd have
We had
to
the policy
talk about it.
discussion and that would actually trigger what
Okay.
would happen with the
I'm
budget.
just saying, I'm just going through the numbers here. Yep. Okay.
So
I
Because
think
it's not
we
on
should-
the
The two
agenda.
questions
It's
are-
part of the budget, but the policy, if we're
Yeah,
gonna
but
change
we
the
think we have
policy,
to talk
we should
about
do
it in
that at a
another
separate
meeting.
meeting.
but we can, if you just put the policy aside, we can't change the pay.
We could change the pay. We
Yeah.
could change the
I mean,
policy or we
That you could do tonight. You
That's
could
a
change the
lot of pay for
tonight,
what they're
Or
doing.
you could,
For, don't you think?
I think that back in the day when they were going out in the
Yeah,
field
when
and
they
doing the
were doing the
assessing,
jobs.
that's why they got paid. And now I think they meet once a month and we have a lot of boards that meet once a month and don't get any pay. You know, I'm just saying. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a little bit a throwback, but I don't want to be judgmental. I know what they do is good.
Like, how long have they gotten paid?
as far as I know, for,
Forever?
In time.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So our decision is to cut the pay or raise the limit.
Or change the policy.
So how do you feel on that, Patrick?
I think frankly, I think that if you have elected boards, some of them are paid and we're going to start adding a stipend for planning board and we already have, you know, basically a minimum of $3,200 for an assessor. You know, Parks and Rec don't get paid. And I don't think the Board of Health gets paid. I don't think that, you know, you look at the other, you got a moderator that gets $300. You got nothing for Board of Health. You got nothing for
Committees are volunteer.
I know, but the elected boards, it's not consistent right now.
No.
No,
It's not consistent is my point. You know, I think that if you're going to have a modest stipend for the non-select board elected boards, it should be the same for all the elected boards, frankly. And, you know, maybe $250 a person, $500 a person for if you're elected to cover expenses, like the planning boards ask for that. You know, and I think that there should be some consistency. I don't think it's any harder to be an assessor than it is to be a planning board member, frankly. You know, I'm just,
I'd be
and
hard
this
to
isn't,
be on the planning board now.
what?
I'd be harder to be on the planning board.
Yeah, that's what I mean, you know, but they're all working really hard on behalf of the town. I just think that it's a fairness issue that we should kind of, you know. Anyways.
And
So,
obviously, this is just the start of the budget, so
Yeah.
this is,
okay.
But where, I wanted to leave this hanging. Are you suggesting we,
I'm suggesting that we go to like, you know, the planning boards ask for a modest stipend to help cover printing and costs, you know, that sort of thing. And I understand because I print out all my stuff that costs a fortune. So I think we should go with a modest stipend for elected boards of maybe $250 a board member and that should be enough, you know? And this board, I think has a level of work that frankly is a little bit beyond what the other boards are and a level of responsibility. And I'm okay with us having access to health insurance. But, you know, I think that frankly, the other boards shouldn't. So
is this all elected?
I think that, you know, there's a proposal for the planning board to get a stipend just to help pay for their, you know, kind of out-of-pocket costs. I think that Parks and, you know, if we're going to leave Parks and Rec elected, I think, you know, I think all the elected boards, we should have a modest stipend, maybe something like $250 a person. And you know, and that, you know, that helps basically defray any kind of preparation costs of getting ready for meetings or printing stuff out, that sort of thing.
but planning board already has a don't they have a budget for things for?
Not per
printing?
stipend for them individually, and they've asked for it this year in Kate's budget.
What did they ask for?
600 per member.
600?
I'm throwing out 250, it could be 500. I think it should be something reasonable. And I think that all the elected folks from moderator on down should be treated the same.
How many,
I can give you the list of the elected boards if you want.
how many people are all together?
Assuming we're meeting the Stockbridge Housing Authority, even though they're elected by the town, they're not a town board. You got 3 on Parks and Rec, 7 on Planning Board, 3 on Assessors, 3 on Board of Health, 3 on Water and Sewer, and 1 moderator. So there's a total of 7, 10, 17, 20 people.
Board of Health is
I'm
elected.
sorry, there's 20 elected positions other than the 3 of us in this town. At 250 each, we'd have a $5,000 budget that we would split between all the elected members, and that would help defray whatever their preparation costs are for a meeting, et cetera, et cetera. It's also below the $600 minimum where you have to basically, report it for taxes. So, but if that's not enough, then we could give them more. I don't care. I just want something that's fair to all the boards. And that is like, that this starts to create a uniform pay schedule, if we're going to pay anything.
So 20 people,
Selected boards.
What?
Elected boards.
You're saying elected people.
I'm saying that right now there's a discrepancy between some elected boards are paid and others aren't. And,
I mean, like, where does that put something like the school committee?
school committee is not a town function. They,
Board of the region.
we don't control the school committee budget. Yeah, I didn't even list them.
Kind of do.
We don't have a say over that.
Yeah.
there's 20 people.
There's 20 people besides the 3 of us.
So if we take the 10,400 from the assessors,
Be 500 each.
the 520 each,
Yeah, that's still below the
then
600.
that keeps the budget even.
Yeah. I was hoping to save a little, but yeah, okay.
520? Okay.
All right.
We want to go 500 and keep.
All right, 500 is fine. I mean, if that's what you want to, what do
I
you
mean,
guys?
that doesn't add to the budget.
Yeah.
It just makes it even. It's a different structure.
It's just taking the assessors, what we're paying assessors and splitting up between all elected officials.
Yeah. Okay,
And it doesn't affect the budget.
all right. All right, good.
Make 3 people unhappy and 17 happy.
Yeah.
So that's a good ratio, I think.
And I also believe I believe that should be, I know some of the board members are going to decline it. And I think that they should have if people don't want to take the draw, they don't need to. So the budget will probably end up being a little lower.
Well, we have to budget.
I know we have to budget for it. I'm saying,
Put
I
it
understand.
there.
Yeah. Okay.
It's in the budget already. Technically, it's in the
Right.
budget.
Yeah, I thought about that. We could, it's a good question, but, there's probably another, if people are on 2 boards, I don't think they should get a double draw. Do we have anybody who's elected to 2 different boards right now?
Not 2 elected.
Yeah. There's another 80 or so people on appointed boards. And, once again, if, like, for example, you're on the zoning board of appeals, I know you got to print stuff out before your various meetings. So, it would strike me that a $50 or $100, stipend that someone could request would make sense, but I'm not going to propose that. I would much rather hear from,
I mean, we usually.
Can we?
okay.
So-
All right, well, that's good. I print out everything at home.
Not say anything because I don't really know.
And I think,
Teresa.
and I think we should discuss the 2,800 thing and maybe
What's
discuss
that?
that and get up.
You don't have
The
to,
policy.
because that puts everybody underneath it.
Yeah, but just in case things climb,
Well, that could be.
we could do it down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
Okay.
Wait,
Hey, one more question. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, you
Let's
go.
go.
No, so it, back to the people that you were paying for the various committees. Now, are they entitled, once they start getting some type of pay? I thought I heard if they're entitled to $1, that means that they're entitled to health insurance.
If we don't have a policy, but the policy set in 2007 by the select board then said, you have to have a compensation of greater than $2,800
Oh, okay.
in order to qualify. So this would mean that the only three that would qualify would be the select board.
Okay.
Okay.
So make a motion, we set all elected officials at 500.
Second,
All in favor?
except for, with the exception of the select board, obviously, right?
Yeah, we have to do,
I mean, I don't care, but you know,
Yeah,
wait, we should redo it so it doesn't get messed up.
yeah, I'll make a motion that all elected officials excluding the stock board get a $500 stipend.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Let's see. Parks and Rec salaries, went up, what, 2,900? That's just, I
That's
know that, I know the,
janitor and Mike and.
Yes, those are all the
all right,
extra.
that's fine. We're just checking.
Yep.
And we increased the Memorial Day Committee budget by 2,500. That's to do a little bit more programming next year.
Yep.
The 250th.
250th anniversary, yes.
All right. Let's see. Going down to the next page. And the page after that, the one that starts 122 selectmen.
Where?
Where our advertising budget seems to be running much higher than the 5,000 in the budget. Why is that at 5,000? Under 5,200 sub,
Yeah.
you know, it says 5,200 total expenses and then it says advertising.
Yeah, you guys have blown that out of the water, haven't you, the last couple of years?
Advertising?
I don't know
Yeah.
what that
I'm
is.
just saying, you know, it doesn't, it seems like it's low.
Yeah. I mean, we keep whittling down litigation,
Yeah, but let's,
haven't ended up in any, so. Yeah, we could just,
I mean, I think we should reflect, the budget should reflect what the actuals are, which are running at 9 to 10,000 a year.
right,
And I think on litigation, I make the reverse point. You know, we spent 2,900 in 2023 and we spent 13,000 in 2024. And I'm not sure we need 25,000 in that budget.
remember this line item when I got here was 100,000.
I know.
So we.
It only takes one Riverside
Are you guys
lawsuit.
comfortable just in case?
Yeah.
I will say that, not that we don't ever end up in litigation, we actually do, but I would say more than 90% of it is insurance related. Our insurance company is covering it. It's
So,
our general liability insurance. If somebody slips and falls or something like that, it's usually insurance claims. So we don't, right now, we have no pending litigation against the town. So
Is the school a hot potato?
That's not in the
that's
budget.
not litigation either.
No.
yeah, that's all insurance.
Just asking.
No, that's where's the board comfortable leaving this number, right? It's one of those ones, even though we haven't used it, great, but we still need something there.
I think we should take advertising up to 10. And I think we should reduce litigation to 18. So we have a net savings of 2.
What? I don't get it.
Our advertising is too low and our litigation is too high.
Well, what do we need advertising
Where's-
for?
It's for it's legal notices.
Notices,
Oh,
things
oh.
like that. We have to pay it, even though we collect the
you up
fee
here.
from the applicant.
There's an advertising down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went over that here, so.
18.
Yeah, if this is okay with the board.
So you want to move the advertising to 10, you said?
Yeah. I mean, like this year in 24 it ran 9,965. I think 10 is, you know, safe. And it was almost that much in fiscal year 23.
And litigation to what?
Litigation ran 2998 2 years ago and 13,459, you know, in fiscal 24.
And I think right now we're at 0.
Right, for the whole year, right?
You
Yeah,
want to make what, 18, you said?
18. And then I think the next line,
You know what? Why don't we, that is, Brian Bertram with the Hoosic.
okay,
It's coming out of this.
okay. So that means still not, his bill is nowhere near
Not a lot.
2,000.
No, it's
Out
not.
of
I
litigation.
mean, I think he spent like 4,000 or 5,000 to date. I mean, it's not huge. That's for Housatonic Waterworks work that we did. I'm seeing the postage now reflects all the departments,
All
right?
departments.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a cushion over actual spend. You know, the postage rates did not go up
Right,
this January. They left them flat.
right.
So,
I think we're good.
all right, let's
We end up a little, remember, it's still, the bottom line is what we vote. So, I'm comfortable with where it is.
And why do we pay into the cable advisory? Because we finished those contract negotiations for the 10-year contract.
We did, but if any disputes come up or anything else,
So is that money that the group asks us for?
yeah, they would have to request it.
Okay. So it's basically only $500, but so I promise you I wouldn't do 3 figures. So yeah, let's skip that one. On the question of I know that the training was at 1325 expended and 5,000 in the budget. That's under the sort of the select board account? Is that
Which one?
the last line, training?
Training? That's just, that's a general training line for staff. So,
We spent 1325 last year, and what did we spend today this year? Do we know?
Because I've used some
a
of it.
lot of, yeah, I know you took a class, in that. So,
$6,000 class?
no.
No.
And a lot of the classes.
Saying that.
Class was 500 in the
What
hotel.
we end
I
up
will-
with is,
I
we end up with these plug numbers that are all a couple thousand over,
Yes.
and it adds up over time to like,
I will admit that a lot of the training now since COVID,
Yeah.
a lot of our training money also included hotels, stays, all these other added costs. A lot of training now is all gone online. So people are just doing it from their offices and the costs are little. It's,
okay?
so if cut it in half,
Works for me.
I think that's, I don't think that hurts because the training costs have come way down.
2,500.
And
So you want to bring
basically,
it to 25?
unless there's a reason
Right.
to not go virtual, obviously there are some training, but like Highway has their own training line and some of theirs like snow fighter course and stuff, you actually have to go and do chainsaw safety classes are not virtual.
Oh, you can't do them online.
But a majority of ours are now virtual. Yes.
And so, you've got like kind of, this is actually a question I have. All over the budget, you've got, should we just budget one sort of pool for training across all departments? Because we have it under planning, police, fire, select board, and town administrator. It's like a line item all over the place.
I would argue that certain departments like highway, fire and others, their training is very specific.
Okay, that's fine.
Police, I think that this training is a more generalized training.
All right, so it'd be great if you could kind of up with a budget for the non-public safety training.
All right.
If we could just have a number that represents sort of, if one of us wants to take a class or a planning board member or you, or, it'd be great if we could kind of consolidate that. Because I think you did that with postage and other line items in the past.
We did. We
Yeah.
started to put some together. Yes.
And I'm only got a couple more, I think. I noticed a big giant jump in the audit cost. Is that based on a quote they gave us?
Which one?
Audit?
Under.
Yes. That is the quote.
Okay. And do we know why it went up 38%? Is it just because I know you guys are
Not a
awesome
new thing.
at being prepared for the audit.
No, this is because the,
And just what they want.
where you see, if you look at the actual for 24, it was 23,750, and then the year.
Oh, we don't have that in here, Mike.
20.
We don't have that number.
Yeah, the audit.
No, but it wasn't the one you gave us last week doesn't have the 24 expended number.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, so it was 23,750. this was the accountant just left the same.
All right, that's fine.
No, we had a quote.
And I noticed that you left you left the town council line item flat. Is that realistic?
I'm waiting for confirmation of their,
Okay.
of any increase. So
Okay.
these are all the numbers as of,
Hmm.
you know, these couple of weeks. Some of these will be fine tuned as we get closer. There should be no substantial changes, but there should be some small ones.
And I've also noticed that like all of these departments have dues and subscriptions, and they all seem to be significantly higher budgeted than what they actually spend. If you're gonna kind of consolidate training, I think dues and subscriptions
Yeah, that
would be another one.
Right, good one.
You know, we could probably pull like several thousand,
Probably pull them together.
5 or 10 grand out of that.
Pull it together, cut it in half.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Those
right.
times that one individual goes, then that's the advantage when you pool them,
Yep.
something like this, that, yeah.
And then we,
What was the payroll service for expended for 24? Under 5,200. Because you had 23 at 5971, but it's budgeted 80.
73,
All right, so that's just up a lot.
yeah.
And you feel like it's going to go up another
Yeah, it's gonna.
10,
go up.
12%?
Yeah, it's gonna go up.
Okay. And tax title was significantly lower than 23 expended. We don't have the 24 number,
7,024.
7,000. Okay.
23 is when we really started aggressively going after the tax title, clean it up.
All right.
So we feel like 10 is a solid number. We discussed that one.
Right. And then, meetings and travel, for treasurer, I think it was, I don't know what it was last year.
Yeah, and once again, this is probably,
Consolidate it. Yeah.
if I consolidate, once again, if I consolidate and cut these in half, right? Because
Yep.
if somebody does have to go to a physical in class, then you're talking, like I said, you're talking mileage, you're talking hotel, meals, all that we have to pay for. So, but I know we've really been pushing since COVID to do
Mhm.
virtual. So in case there's one of those classes we have to go to, right, if I pulled all these, I could probably cut them in half,
What was the actual Conservation Commission agent budget last year?
20,000.
I know what the budget was, but what was expended?
where, I don't see that.
2024, under 5,200, the bottom, it's the top of the page says 145 treasurer collector. And then way at the bottom, it's basically the Conservation Commission budget.
13,070, that should be 13,000.
So that's basically, we had 13,000 2 years.
Yeah,
And can we bring that down a little then?
And there's a line for.
so he's on a retainer that's pretty much what he gets, but if he goes over the hours, it gives us a little flexibility, but you could make the argument that,
Well, we have 2 years experience now.
yeah,
I'm just saying it's 7,000.
and they could also tap that other account
Yeah.
if they went over
Well, that's
on
a-
projects
that's-
and stuff. So I'm gonna highlight that one.
Okay.
I will re-examine that one.
Okay. And let's see, under elections,
Where's the-
I have a suggestion on police
Where?
duty for elections.
Page are you on?
It's under 162 elections.
Okay,
I can't,
First of all, actually, it's
I don't
starting at
think I can read it.
161.
is it this one?
this one in here.
Yeah, town clerk voting on elections.
I'm gonna talk, there's a couple of these, now that we're going through, we need to reprint those. That's too
Yeah.
small. That's way too.
No. But there's, yeah, it's, some of them you printed twice, but, there's a big sheet for 161 town clerk. And I'm just wondering if it makes sense for us to buy our own clickers, to spend 4,000 a year over 10 years, that's like 40 grand. Is it really that hard a system to run that we just can't buy our own?
I think so. A couple have bought it. Now that
Yeah.
we've gotten used
I
to
mean,
it.
it's like, come on, it's like $4,000 a year to like rent clickers.
Yeah,
Like over 10 years, that's $45,000.
yeah.
I just feel like we should basically buy the darn things and
All right, so we'll take them out of the budget. We'll drop them.
and put it into free cash.
in the-
Buy them with free
That's free
cash.
cash,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Save it all over the place. All right. This is a suggestion. It's not a requirement. I don't want to kind of I would like to see us eliminate the police duty for elections and ask the chief and the sergeant to basically have personal presence during elections. It's a great time for FaceTime with the entire town, and I don't see why we have a junior officer. I think that the senior leadership should be there on election day and that we should not fund a duty officer.
They get paid
for
extra
elections.
for that?
Yeah, it's,
No, an officer gets assigned because this is considered a outside their
Extra?
normal duties.
I think we should ask,
Union contract.
I'm just saying, I think we should ask,
Wow.
I think we should ask the senior leadership to,
8 to 8, it's a 12-hour.
there's two people in senior leadership, have them split it.
I am pretty sure that would end up violating our union contract. It has to be offered to the hourly officers first.
Yeah.
I think that would.
I mean, I think it's just
Yeah, I don't think
basically,
we can
yeah.
do that.
look, okay, it's only $3,500. Well, first of all, why is it, do we have two elections this year? $3,500 for one election day?
We could end up with 2
Because of the school.
if we end up having to have.
Oh, I see, okay. All right, well, good then.
Not.
I think it would be a nice, but
It would be
It
nice.
can be, but we do have to offer.
okay.
Rockville Town.
Union schmunions, yeah, I got it, okay. All right, let's see, what's next?
Take everyone's dues and
right.
subscriptions, you'll be fine.
Yeah, okay, so that, other charges, expenses, that's fine. I'm not gonna complain about that. On to page, so in general, going back to my observation that we have this windfall of building permitting fees this year of $100,000. I would like to see on things like town offices, if we're doing site improvements and purchasing equipment, that we do that with free cash rather than whenever we're buying things like computers or improving a site, that we do it less. And this is, you want to pull, you said yourself, you wanted to pull some of that money out of the budget. The way we do that is some of these line items could easily be purchase equipment. Why aren't we basically having an equipment fund for across all these departments for $50,000 or $100,000 from free cash and eliminate them from these various departments?
I don't understand.
You got site improvements and purchasing equipment. You've got purchase computers under
Purchase
the computer.
equipment for town hall is something like if our mower goes and if we need a new weed whacker. Site improvements are.
Why can't you have a $25,000 free cash fund to purchase anything like that across the town? Why do we have to line item it for all these?
What you're, like I said to you before, it sounds very much like you're just taking reoccurring costs and you're basically using now free cash to lower the tax rate, which if these are one-time purchases, we make sure they go into capital. But the site improvements are done every year around this building.
All right. What is the equipment under the town offices? Purchase equipment, that's $4,000. Purchase computers, line item is $7,500. Purchase equipment, line item under computer tech is, $10,000. Right there is $20,000. I'm assuming that doesn't have a shelf life of a year. And we always throw off at least some free cash, and we know we're going to throw off some again this year.
Right, so, purchase of equipment was 6,723, and that was 2,300. I know this year we had to buy a new spreader for the salt around. There were a couple purchases that have already hit that line this year, and you have to get through the whole year. So, and site improvement around this building
I
are.
think we're in.
Forget site improvement.
All right.
All right. Let's assume that's just maintenance.
We went from here to down here.
They were down on 125 town offices or 198 computer tech.
Yeah, you just,
So the computer tech, the purchasing of computers,
but that's not all the time.
no, it's not. And it's almost like just, yes, it
Like,
is
or do
just a
you
case. Actually,
have
we
it
are
there as a
replacing, we
cushion?
did have to replace the laptop this year, so.
Yeah, but they're.
It's like a $25,000 or $50,000 pull from free cash once a year that covers you for any kind of ongoing couple $1,000 purchase.
You're dedicating free cash to reoccurring costs.
It's not a recurring cost. You don't know if you're going to need a laptop this year or a server next year. You never know.
It's sort of in that category of stuff.
Do you have a technology refresh plan? Or do you just let them go until they're
I have no idea.
No, we
We're sort
do
of in-
work on, so we're
You
gonna
have to
start,
pass
I was gonna
the
start using this one to refresh. We're actually gonna move away from so when I first got here, one of the
going.
few things we could use our CARES money for were laptops to remote work. So we ended up buying laptops
Oh.
across the board. They're now 5 years old.
What?
So
Wow.
laptops, unlike regular computers on your desk, do age
Don't-
quite a bit faster.
Oh, spring.
I'm gonna begin refreshing the computers. The new ones are basically a brick.
125 is the top.
They're
Then-
small
Yeah.
and
And
they're
then you
around
gotta go-
750 a piece and we're
Yours
gonna begin
missing. I think you don't
storing-
have it.
replacing the laptops
He
for
doesn't
those
have it.
people who actually
That's fine,
don't
that's,
go
I'm
home
following
with
you.
their.
and you're basically capped.
You don't have it, because mine,
You're definitely,
you can see mine's here.
you're capitalized.
If I go to
and
here, it's
basically depreciating
125.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, 162.
So we're in this area. Patrick talked about
yeah, we're not buying.
this
Look,
one, and then he went down here.
The point I'm making is, it goes back to our 90,000 is 1%. If we can figure out
Yeah.
some combination of things that are kind of not necessarily predictable, annual things like,
Figuring this out for me.
and we pull out 50,000, that's a half a point on the taxes. And we throw out so much free cash every year.
So one of the things I will mention to all the board members, if you get your budget too tight, and I've been in situations where
So
this
you're
happens,
missing
and
a
you
piece.
get toward the end of the year,
So
and
look,
now you have to put a spending freeze on and go, okay, your computer's down, we can't fix it, we're out of money, we've already used our 100,000 reserve. It can happen, I've been involved in these. So you have to have some cushions within the budget. I know you're trying to take away everyone.
because then we're gonna be
I will also
nervous.
note that so we have what are called, there's three types of budgets. There's the school budget, which is an omnibus budget, so they can spend the money anywhere. There's a line by line budget, which means every line you're committed to. And then the one that we use is a departmental budget. So what we do is we vote the overall expenses and the overall salaries, and that's what we have to stick to. So in like computers, we have to stick to the overall budget and keep it under 126,000 on the year. While we give some general categories, a lot of these are leftover categories, and I could just start reworking or consolidating them. Because you can see that we spent 130 in 2023, we spent 121 in 2024. And and I did note on the side that we have to move because of the new security features that are being required by our insurance company. We need to move to Microsoft 365.
I'm talking software.
It's gonna cost-
Not mention software.
Yeah, but it's all,
No, there's a software line item.
but I end up, I know, but you're focused on each individual line instead of the overall department. That department has been at 130, then 121. If I go in at,
Because Patrick, I think what he's trying
Are
to say,
these things running on Windows 10?
no,
Okay,
It's-
because if they are, its end of life is October. And
We're not.
we're not.
Which means that any equipment that you have that needs to be running Windows 11, any of that need to be refreshed because some of it, maybe too, the 5-year-old machine actually might be too old. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, no, I've been talking to our IT guy about the things that we need to do and our two-step, our cyber requirements are, we're governmental level, so, well, that's why we're gonna begin flipping over these.
I think that I'm on your side with this. I think that keeping this where it is.
I'm not suggesting a reduction in the budget. I'm suggesting that every year I've been on this board, I'm in my sixth budget now, we throw off hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of free cash a year. And that basically means it's your money that we have charged you in this year's tax rate that is now going to be in a free little pool for people like me to spend. And I would rather see that go down. And one of the ways you bring it down is you say, instead of having a 126 line item, you have it at 100 and 25,000 comes out of free cash when we're purchasing things that are hard purchases that last more than a year. It has nothing to do with cutting budgets. It has everything to do with cutting the tax rate. And that's my little lecture on the tax rate. And I know that, and Michael's job is to protect the institution, which is to make sure we don't get so tight that because bad things happen when we don't have enough money to pay our bills. I get where he's coming from. He's advocating for the institution. I'm advocating for the taxpayer. And then we end up compromising. We do this all the time.
Yeah. And I will point out that last year, even though we have $2.5 million in free cash, our budget surplus and the rest was only 800,000 because 1.7 million came from the rest of the river.
Right.
So we only generated 800,000 on a 15 million, because when you take everything into consideration, our overall total expenditures of the town was 15 million. And our
Raised appropriated from taxes was 9 million, which means on the 800,000, it was almost 10%. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, the money we actually raised from property taxes.
that is a tight.
I get it.
Yeah.
Just a little
Yeah,
bit.
so
going.
a good one is 10% of the budget and, and between stabilization, which is at 1.2 million, plus 800,000 that we generated, we're not going to be generating the free cash that we've had the last couple of years. So we've been tightening and tightening every year and.
Because we.
And every year I'm going to pressure you to tighten a little more because that's what we do.
Right. On the computer one, we get constantly hit. Our insurance company does these, they do these pings of us and then they come back and say, we got through your security here.
Not suggesting you cut the budget.
Yes. But
All right,
Why,
shall we digress?
why do you do Microsoft? You don't use like Apple products like most.
because almost everything that you deal with the federal government is a Word and Excel. And
Yeah.
to just, I know they talked about a couple of years ago allowing everything else, but you can't use like Google Sheets, which I use at home, which seems to work fine. But everything we do, when I submit to FEMA, when I submit to any state organization, I have to do it in Excel. So,
There are certain security things and Google's not really.
I just say we keep it as is.
I say we just leave
Keep it
it,
as is.
because you still have the flexibility to move these things.
and that's what I usually end up doing.
And I rather.
I would rather consolidate even the headings down to like
Yeah.
3 of them instead
Yeah,
of.
like, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Just saying if we could figure out, because we know that we're going to throw up at least several $100,000.
All right, should we keep going?
And, and it just ends up.
But wait a sec, actually so we brought in 800,000, but there were certain revenue streams that came in higher than anticipated.
Yeah, but that's happened for 5 straight years.
But you don't know, none of those are guaranteed. That's why I never want to budget more than 90% against because I don't want to get us in a situation where we ever have a negative balance sheet.
I get that, but
Say that
then
300.
tell me if the 1.3 million on stabilization isn't enough in reserves, then to put
No,
that.
I'm not recommending we put any more in stabilization, but
My preference would be a tighter budget. And if you feel like we need a bigger cushion, then put it into stabilization. I can live with that. If you don't feel like the 10% that we're at now, which is the 1.3 million stabilization is enough, that's great. But right now, it seems like 10% of taxes is going to be $600 this year.
right, but revenues are not a guarantee. So there's certain ones that are guaranteed and other ones that are not. We want to make sure in the worst case scenario, we're hitting our revenues. And if I am 10% under on the revenues, but the revenues are only at 3 million, which means that I'm leaving us a $300,000 cushion. I could tighten that up, but then we run the risk of ending up not having a proper balance sheet. So I don't think 300,000 is that much on that side. Then there's,
Nothing you can do. We
Yeah.
got only a couple more pages to get through.
all right.
Take a look at it, right?
What about solar power?
Yay, yes, exactly.
Right.
We already have some.
digress.
I got a question on.
85% of our power comes from our solar array.
There must be.
How do we spend $16,000 on uniforms for the police department and 11,000 on uniforms for the fire department? Great Barrington's uniform budget for fire, by the way, is $4,000. I went and checked their budget today. No idea. Is that in the contract somewhere? Like, how are we spending
where are
so
you?
much on, I'm just looking at uniforms budget for fire and police.
So the uniform budget for police is all in on equipment and that for their uniforms, they get X amount of uniforms and that.
I mean, we have what, 10 officers? 8.
9 with the chief, yeah.
So it's $2,000 a person?
Yeah, we don't always end up spending it, but a lot of times we do. With the firefighters from their dress uniforms for the rest for the volunteers,
So basically, so
But
it's not
isn't
just.
uniforms like their fire gear?
The dress uniforms are out of the
what's the uniform?
association
then?
fund.
Is that their turnout gear? No, that turnout.
Like-
Mayors, I think it's,
$11,000.
how much is it?
$11,000 in the uniform budget for fire.
But is that the fire outfit?
No, it's not. I don't think it's gear. I think it's just the uniform. I don't know.
Check
Isn't it the
things. The only thing
stuff
I
to
think
wear
of
to a
is-
fire?
It's the, did it go up because of the new people coming on? It's their daily
Yeah, I think,
gear, I mean, the daily, like,
yeah,
Scott wears and stuff.
Okay.
yeah, all that, so.
Yeah, it's
You know,
not,
and here's, I will caution this about looking at other towns, labeling of their categories,
I know, I understand.
completely different things, so.
We have to be careful.
I just think with
They have different amount of
with eight
employees.
police officers and with two full-time folks. And granted, if it's a benefit that we're giving to the volunteers, I totally understand. But it just seems like it's a kind of a lot.
Oh, we're gonna be bringing on 2 full-time employees.
I think that's for their uniforms, their daily.
Yeah.
I mean, how much is it? I'm just, I don't have no idea. Is it?
Yeah, it's not, they're not cheap, all the stuff that they
Is
need.
that including like a?
It's gear, it's
Oh.
individual personalized gear, things like that, that they,
Well, that's,
from flashlights to other things that, their uniforms, their clothing.
Their
We can have the
shoes,
chiefs
right?
come in and explain any of the individual ones.
okay.
We spent 16,000.
I'm not even sure. I'm just raising it. I'm not saying, I'm not criticizing. This is somebody who, can't even start a fire in his fireplace. I know nothing about fire and whether that's an appropriate line item. I'm just bringing it up because I went through and it stuck out. Yeah, this isn't, no judgment. All right, let's see,
So where were we at?
we're on highway
Let's
421.
back up to
Where?
fire.
Yeah,
Which one?
A couple of questions. Why is the stipend going up 10,000?
Where?
Yeah, I have that same question, actually.
What's it called?
The stipend went from 46 to 56, right?
Yeah.
so
Because that's just you gotta make so many calls and you get X amount of money. Well, I think 10,000 is quite a hike.
So I have the calculation over here, of how we came up with the 50,000, it's 25, we're tracking more toward more calls as far as training hours. So we were bumping the training hours from 2,000 estimated points to 2,500 for next year, but not raising the $20 per that we do now. Then we have 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, and the training officer. So it comes out to be $56,000 with 500 additional hours of training and annual points. It was 2,500 before, then we lowered it to 2,000, and now what looks like we're gonna be back toward the 2,500 hours.
So it's utilizing many hours
Last year, we budgeted 2,000 hours
for,
for all the guys. This year, we're budgeting 2,500 hours.
but they have to make the calls
Yeah,
and make the practices. So
yeah, I can get we think that we're gonna be closer, we're gonna be over 2,000, so we're bumping it up to 2,500.
okay,
If we don't hit it, then this is one that comes back, but I'd rather be able to pay the guys if we end up than not.
Yeah.
okay. And when's the new truck coming in?
It looks like it's been delayed now to December.
So that's the next fiscal year. Right. Okay.
It was supposed to, originally, we were anticipating a June, July delivery of
But not
this year.
until
Now it looks
Christmas?
like it's December.
Okay, so July, August, September. So it's 5 months into the season.
Yeah,
So
and it keeps, keep getting bumped back. So yeah,
well, I'm just thinking that truck's coming in, then the maintenance repair budget should
we
drop
did talk about that.
way down because two trucks are going.
Yeah, when the new one's delivered, the
Yeah, two trucks.
anticipation is that
So
we are not.
you got two trucks that are taking up the money and purchasing and replacing equipment. You got two trucks with all kinds of equipment on it.
And I fully anticipate next year's budget will see a
A big
decrease in
drop.
that line.
Okay.
Right now, we're December, and if we get delayed again, then we could be
Okay.
February or March. So we just don't know when we're gonna get that.
Okay, that's the only question I have, is that truck's
Yeah.
coming earlier than this budget.
No, if that was June or July, we were talking about cutting it, and then we got notification, it got moved back to like August, then we got notification, now it's December. So, yeah.
Okay.
So just out of curiosity, if you go to Highway 428,
428?
Highway Machinery. And Chuck, this is another one where you would know much more than me.
Fine,
But-
here, open up this.
Oh, it's at the bottom.
It's the top, it says 421 Highway.
Fine, highway.
It's gonna be done here.
So what do you got?
Well, I'm just curious, like why, with vehicle maintenance, I thought most of our equipment was relatively new. And it seems like it's much higher than it ran historically.
Yeah, that's
Really
fair.
high,
So-
64.
Well, we spent 76 and 24.
76?
Yeah.
Why?
It doesn't take much with these bigger equipments, the cost now of repairing them. You get a front end loader and you have an issue with that, and
So does it need to be higher then?
I don't think so. I think we're comfortable there. We also, a couple of years ago, we consolidated, like, that now is the harvester repair, all of it in one line instead of, that was when we actually consolidated, because we used to have a whole bunch in highway for like,
And are we,
Harvester is the Harvey.
yeah.
and are we doing harvester salaries? Because I thought it was all volunteers. We had.
No, they
paid
get a
someone?
stipend.
We pay all of them because they're employees of the town.
Oh, okay.
We do not allow volunteers on our equipment because they wouldn't
Because
be
of that
covered by
turnover.
I
our.
used to have great volunteers on.
I know you do.
I was.
Yeah.
And we took that away.
Because of insurance.
Yes.
If the harvester is included in that, then that's not a lot of
It
work.
is very much worth our little bit of money to
All
make.
right, I was wondering if it's enough.
Have them covered if an
By
incident
insurance.
happens.
All right.
Because
So-
there's always some kind of mishap.
We did have a mishap, yes.
I know.
Okay, so I think that the last, I think that, let me just flip through all these. Yeah, if you gave us your pages, this meeting would go faster.
I am going to, I will, if you guys leave them, I'll redo them when I make the changes and I'll put page numbers on them.
I'm pretty, yeah, okay.
So that was brought up last year by the finance committee too, so yes, it would make it a
Some
lot
have the
easier.
numbers.
Yeah, I have to change it to a PDF and then have a
Under,
PDF.
under Parks and Rec, you've got,
What page are you on?
I'm on, 5, well, this type is so small, even I can't see it. It says Board of Health at the top, then it says Council on Aging. Parks and Rec is the third one, and it's in really tiny top type. It has a little 3 lines on the side that say janitor, morning, cleanup, kayak coordinator.
Yeah.
It says purchase equipment. It says something maintenance, dock maintenance, and site improvements. And none of those can fill it into a free cash request?
No, these are just your small little replacing boards and other pieces.
It's like $24,000.
Who's the kayak coordinator? Is that
Who's
Teresa?
that?
24,000?
Yeah, under Parks and Rec, the last 3 lines.
Where? I don't have the page.
We could, site improvements, 15, we spent 17 and 19 out there.
I'm not saying cut the budget, I'm saying is it capital, because they relate to capital.
No, these are reoccurring. So every year we spend about $9,000 in mulch at
Okay.
various
All right.
parks. Because you have to maintain them to a certain degree and make sure that the fall zones around the parks.
And the 9,000 to purchase equipment is just replacement equipment, like on an ongoing schedule?
Yeah, that they,
I'm asking.
that is around equipment that actually breaks typically.
So the kayak coordinator,
Who does that?
That's
Teresa
Teresa.
does it and she also does the ZBA. It's all
that's
part of it,
what I thought. Okay.
So years ago, they used to like check licenses. People to come into the beach. Maybe.
Yeah,
That was during
There should be
COVID.
a fee for a permit to go in,
yeah.
I guess. people's guests.
We did expand the parking lot, so there's a little bit more parking there. Have we had problems with people having enough parking there?
You've been short of parking.
And the really, really hot days, yes.
Okay.
I mean,
But to-
I just
but to
thought
have-
offset expenses, but maybe not, because you have to pay some.
Then you gotta
Then you have to
hire,
pay a person sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an
but you gotta
employee.
hire enough to cover every
Yeah, that's
shift.
right.
So you'd have
Then
to
you get into
pay them to-
overtime, you get into sick time, you get into,
Benefits.
I don't think,
Well, you could do seasonal workers where you're not including any of that.
the cost of
The
it.
cost to have
Why don't you
people.
elect them and then you can only pay them $500?
Wise
Elected,
guy.
elected parking attendant.
Just think we're gonna go through this again next Wednesday.
Stockbridge residents only on the sign.
Well, the sign's gone.
So
So now
let me answer that question. So we actually are going to be taking, so the Massachusetts has a recreational use act, which says that you are not liable for people using parks. Just like if you go to Boston and you want to use Central Park, you cannot restrict people just because they're not of the town. What you can do is you can control the parking. Parking you can restrict. So you can restrict the parking too, but if people walk into the beach, bike into the beach,
Yeah.
they're not just, yeah. So the control around that is you are allowed by law to, and that's why like on the Cape, you pay to permit to use the beach, but if you walk into a beach, they just let you walk in.
So offset anything, because there's not that many parking spaces, any expenses.
Yeah.
All right. I want to just, my last page, I believe, unless I'm, is the capital page. And there's three things I think we need to discuss. One is,
Tonight.
this is the one that has the big pie chart on it that looks like this. It's under capital, has its own tab. It says capital draft.
That's page one.
Yep. Okay.
Page one, it's got a page number.
There's only one page and I only have three comments and I'll, what does Kate tell me to do? I keep it concise. Yeah, I'll try to do that. First is that we budgeted for half of the new Revolutionary War Monument, the CPC budget for 33.5 of that. The other half of that project, I was hoping to take out of free cash. That is a one-time, in fact, it's a once in a century, once in a 250-year project. There also turns out, and Rich, I don't know if he sent it to everyone else, but he did a great presentation on also some repairs that we need for the existing monuments. And, we're going to put that, I think, Jamie Vero onto the next agenda where he can present it, but that's another 30,000 or so. So between the two of them, that's like $60,000. That is like a once in a 250-year kind of thing. And I would like to
I
sort of
don't
see
know what
that.
anyone's talking about.
Pickleball and skating? Is that what you're?
This is for to do a Revolutionary War monument and fix the other monuments
So
that are there.
I shared
check
earlier,
Oh.
a proposal to install a Revolutionary War memorial on the town green with the other war memorials. We've been doing some research on it and there's about, 300 names on it, in both colonists and indigenous residents who would be part of that
Mhm.
memorial. It's a significant, it's a significant thing in that Stockbridge itself was an enlistment area for this part of the state. And so people came from all around to enlist to serve for the colonial forces during the Revolutionary War. What also is significant is that the Mohican residents of Stockbridge also participated in that. They were called the Stockbridge Militia and were very key to the colonial forces. And their numbers, they had a very, aside from the obvious things that we talk about with respect to what's happened to the Mohicans, they also had a very significantly high fatality rate because of various things. But long story short, there is no Revolutionary War memorial in Stockbridge. It actually represents the largest number of people who served in a combat exceeding World War II, exceeding all these other
Yeah.
battles. And so we wanted to make a proposal to install one because it would be significant in that there would be about 300 people listed on that memorial. We would have to obviously get a fairly sizable installation, which would then require us to kind of rearrange the existing memorials.
And we come up with a budget to do that.
Yeah, so we came up with a budget to do that. We presented it to the CPC. The CPC awarded
33.5.
33.5 with a balance of about 33.5 to cover the costs of creating a Revolutionary War memorial, installing it, and rearranging the existing memorials. That said, I brought to Patrick's attention and Michael's attention that the existing memorials are in need of repair for any number of reasons, but the largest is that when we installed them, over the course of time, additional names were kind of glued onto the memorials.
Yeah, we should
The point
clean it up.
is, it's not, if you're gonna go to the extent of doing all this work, it would be ideal to renovate the existing memorials as well. That is a significant cost. What I was trying to propose is that if we could create, and I don't know what the term is, but like a gift fund, so that the town could accept, not only the town could accept funding from foundations and private citizens who could then offset the cost to the town. That could then create a much smaller ask.
Like we did with Ice Glen. We had a $10,000 gift that came in for Ice Glen.
Anytime, so the town can accept gifts and gifts for particular purposes. And then we would note that particular,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if we were getting up
It's all the same thing.
for memorials, we would set up a gift account for memorials.
So that's-
But
The
it
treasurer can do
seems-
that, yeah.
So I mean, I'm proposing the creation of this war memorial. We have the funding to cover at least half of it without doing any renovations on existing memorials.
Well, if CPC gets passed at town meeting. Yeah.
If the CPC, if we can pass the town meeting and appropriate the money to cover the other half, then we have the CPC money plus the other half from the town. But if we can also allocate some additional funding for the renovation of the existing memorials, and we can establish a gift fund, we can create, we can solicit donations that can help offset the overall costs of the project.
But it seems like, and May correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't the order have been different instead of going to CPC to get money and then come to select board to get money? Like, wouldn't you have come to us first?
Well, it's just our budget season is now and CPC's deadline was December. So we had to go
And
there.
they put in the full amount for CPC, CPC
Will
just.
they
didn't.
No, we
only give
didn't.
up?
No, I always intended for us to get a
Oh,
crack.
all right.
If we didn't want to do it, then CPC is going to be withdrawn. It costs what it costs. And so I wrote that
That's a
proposal.
big, right, it's a,
I had put the 33.5 in. I wasn't aware of additional funds beyond the 33.5 to put in.
wait, you had already put it in? But it's not an R.
No, it wasn't.
No, this was
You did the last-
updated, so including the 215 that the park committee put in.
All right, and look, we spent, put in perspective, spent 200,000 on the
And where would the money come out of?
Free
free
cash.
cash. Yeah. And we spent 700,000 to fix the chime tower. We spent 200,000 to fix the Soldiers Monument for $60,000 out of free cash to basically acknowledge the entire Revolutionary War in the 250th anniversary of the country, because this work would be ready for 2026. It's a huge celebration year. I think it's a great
Patrick, I
way.
think You've spent all of our free cash.
I did. I put it in. That's why I want to pull in the money from the building fund.
It's not monopoly.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah, but I'm not done. I got two more. Michael, did you talk to Ken Gooch?
I will get,
All right. So we may need to do some suppression funding for Ice Glen and apply for another USDA grant, but we don't have a number yet.
Or
more of the sprays and
injection.
injections. Yep.
All right. And then my last one is what's the status of the mausoleum? Do we know yet? The RP's going out?
Well, no, we contracted with them to develop, so they have to do the assessment of the building, come up with the RFP, the work that needs to be done.
Okay.
So more than likely, we are not going to have that. That'll be probably the following year.
Okay. So that's not something we need to worry about this year.
But we've already appropriated the funds to do the evaluation and come up with a plan to tackle the mausoleum at this.
All right. And then my last thing, and I promise I'm done, is I just want to ask the question, if we're going to do anything like a July 4th celebration for 2026, the country's 250th anniversary, if we want to do something that might be a member of the Cultural Council with a member of the Historic Commission, with maybe, someone from the Select Board, if we want to basically do any programming around July 4th, 2026, that is this budget that we have to agree on this year, and we have to talk about it right now, because if we don't, there's no money to do it. So my sense is that maybe we want to think about a little bit of a fund similar to Cultural Council. So people want to do programming at the library, we want to do a July 4th parade, which we don't normally do, but after 250 years, maybe it's justified. Having a little bit of a kitty for this once in a quarter of a millennium celebration, I would strongly support. And I don't have a proposal on that, but I do think that it's something that we should be thinking about, because, July 1, 2026 is literally the last day of the fiscal year we're budgeting for right now.
Good idea of what are we thinking about? I know they did ask for 2,500 more.
I was thinking 5 million. I'm kidding, that was a joke. 5 million, 6
Out of free cash or OPEB?
Okay.
I don't think that's all we do.
I was thinking,
I know.
I was thinking like, something like, I don't know. I think it's basically, it's a 2026 celebration year. Yeah, I can see some events at the library and,
Fireworks.
almost like augmenting either Historic Commission or Cultural Council with some additional money for programming.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 25 grand, but I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's a lot.
I think we have to have something a little more detailed to,
Yeah.
for we have money for.
But we're not gonna know. It would be a fun, people could.
You're setting
about a
aside
flagpole?
2,500.
Yeah.
You guys could set the thing that they have to come to you guys with a proposal to
We
use.
could create a 2026 commission, maybe a member of the Historic Commission.
Have a Memorial Day committee.
I think you have a committee.
And a Veterans Committee already. They asked for additional money for Memorial Day.
I get that, but I'm just saying this, the Historic Commission, we just appointed 4 new members. Maybe they're looking for something to do. This could also,
Maybe they'll get elected and get a site.
$500.
There are a number of grants at the state level, either at the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism or at the Mass Cultural Council. So theoretically, if you wanted to set aside a fund for this, could this not be offset by grants that you could then ask?
right, or matching. Sometimes you have to have a match. We don't have to spend it necessarily, but now's the time we got to plan for it, because once this budget is voted on in May, we're set through July 4th, 2026. I mean, basically, the end of that fiscal year is June 30th,
Well, we still have other finance or other budget meetings.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting we decide now, but I'm just throwing out there that now is the time we got to plan for, I like parties, big party for our big.
And the
birthday.
taxpayers' money.
I think it's good for the community too, all kidding aside.
If you do the Revolutionary War Memorial, this is actually a fairly substantial thing, because there are not many of those in the state, on this side of the state. And there are none in the state that recognize the Mohicans or the indigenous
Yeah.
contribution. So this is a very, fairly big deal. And I suspect that with Memorial Day, what we're allocating for Memorial Day will be probably just enough to cover what we anticipate to be a fairly sizable group of people coming to see this. And I actually expect that there could be a fair amount of demand or notoriety around what we're doing with this, because it is something that is quite unique.
And I'm just going to say, along those lines, that most of the money that we ended up taking in from poisoning our river, and my best friend died of cancer, living on that river growing up. And I will just say this, most of that money we're going to put toward solid municipal expenses like the new firehouse and the rest of it, but taking a little bit of that money and having like 10 or 20 grand and having a celebration for some people in town. It seems like it's completely appropriate for us to spend a tiny bit of what was that awful, basically, payment that we received for the permanent damage they did to that river. And I have no problem in taking what would effectively be 1% of that money and putting it toward a celebration for 2026.
Wendy from the library said the library is already planning events. They're applying for grants, but additional support would be helpful.
Okay. So that's it. That's all I got.
Is there a number you want to throw in, temporary hold?
Like I said, 25. But it may be, you know, like, we're not gonna spend it if we don't get proposals from folks who wouldn't end up spending it, but it just gives us, I have no idea what people would want to do in town, you know?
Is that the number?
That's fine.
About
I don't know how
25, we
much
discussed
brings
it.
that.
I mean, if you don't use, it is one thing, if you don't use it, we close out the ATM, it comes back and can be repurposed for another fund.
Yeah.
And if you use it, use it.
Go to 25.
Taxpayer money that you're putting in.
Oh, no, it's OPEB. No.
That's right. But actually, in this case, I'm specifically suggesting that
Patrick's
it's
gonna,
pulled from the rest of the river, yeah. Which is still taxpayer money, but yeah. That's all.
free hot dogs for everyone.
All right.
I like that.
Any other,
I think we're gonna punt on the tennis court on Park Street for now, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
that one is high.
What's
It'll be
the
more than
pickleball
that.
skating? I just keep $60,000 there. I'm saying $60,000 suggestions on pickleball. And we did one at the golf course. It cost us close to $200,000 or some ridiculous.
so this one is a pickle, so we have the documentation on it. It's a pickleball, but it also has edges and it can double as a skating rink in the winter.
Where would that be?
Oh, here.
We'd actually put it beside the basketball court. Katie, our COA director, has been looking into it and she did quite a bit of research
We'll
on
use free cash.
What's the liability on the skating rink, public skating rink?
recreational uses.
We got insurance.
Actually, I ran the North Adams skating rink and you just put I use it for a
We
risk.
have one down here. We've got the.
That's it. But
We had an ice rink down there.
there.
now you gotta be careful as soon as you start, like, if you charge or you restrict use, then you're not covered by it. But if you just put it out there and say, you know, use at your own risk, there's actually zero liability.
You gotta admit, today isn't government fun. This was a fun meeting.
So glad-
This was a fun meeting.
Thank you for inviting. us.
All right.
So,
As long as we are impacting.
want to do capital next week?
Well, there's not much.
You should.
We have an entire proposal of the pickleball court.
Well, they have to put tubes on it. Maybe that's why it's 60, you should be.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not even invited. I'll be saw that come in.
This is, it is a pickleball, but it's, you know, they put down, strip the area,
So it's a permanent pickleball court
It's a blacktop,
yeah.
in the tennis court. So,
right by the basketball court,
oh, so it would be
So
the two
next-
courts and then you'd have a new one next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
next to the basketball court.
But the skating doesn't really fit. I mean, the dimensions in my mind wouldn't work.
It's good size, it would.
It'd be for little kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be,
It's not for grown-ups.
I mean, a pickleball court is about the size of this room.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can
So
fit.
how do you skate in this size room?
I actually had at the Lennox Youth Center years ago, the back flood only an area about half this room with a hose and the kids used to go out there and skate on it. It's not much, but
I love to skate.
it just has a multiple use. So, yeah.
You looking for a motion or are we,
A motion to adjourn?
yeah, are we done or you have anything else?
The only other thing I could just, if you want me to, or we could just say for another time, was to touch on some of the capital projects. A lot of them are on hold right now in the winter. I was just gonna, Tuckerman, chapter 85 review things. Why don't we save it for?
Yeah,
Next.
and also I think the question on if we can do a footbridge, the low cost footbridge on
Curtisville.
Curtisville.
Still looking at,
I know,
Yeah.
but it'd be nice to talk about that one.
all right.
Okay. It was already, what, 8:30?
8:35.
Motion adjourned?
Second,
All right.
all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you, everyone.